Hey everybody, welcome back to What the Helvetica. Today we have Reagan Mackerel, who is better known as G'day Frank, or as I like to call him sometimes, G'day, as if it were his first name. Do people do that to you?
I get G-Day. I get people saying, hey, G-Day. It's like, what?
They do. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's like the Moore. Like some people on Instagram think, hey,
Moore.
Mr. Moore, because they think Moore is my first name, even though it is not.
Join Mike, Janda, and Guess to discuss the things that make creative people say, what the hell, Vetica?
Do you ever regret doing the G'day Frank thing? And the Frank, I know we've talked about this. I don't know if it was on a podcast, but we're going to talk about it again because it always fascinates me. Your name isn't Frank. Mm-hmm. Your name is not G'day.
Yeah.
Your name is Reagan Mackerel, and yet your brand is G'day Frank, which sounds like a name other than the G'day, which is the Hello Bossy style. So what's the deal? When did you decide this, and do you regret it ever?
I don't regret it ever, which is probably a good thing, because you kind of need to live and breathe your brand and not... This is always the problem with people with their brands, is they always fall out of love with it very quickly because they're always the one that's seeing it. But just the other day, like I get... it's basically a salutation. So I got an email from a client who's based in India, and they start the email with G'day Frank. So it's like there's the brand name sort of coming through there. But the inception of it was that with my name, and this is a classic example here, how I pronounce my name is Reagan Mackerel instead of mackerel, like the fish. And so I get really weird sort of pronunciations. I get Regan a lot, or weird spellings of Reagan and how you spell it. And so it's a name. My actual name is a name that's plagued me throughout my whole life. At school assemblies, they'd say Regan Mackerel, and my parents would be in the back going, kind of thing, and they'd just like hack it and go whatever. And so when I started this business, I was like, look, this is a chance to create a brand and kind of live and breathe a brand, maybe away from myself and who I am, day to day, and come to the table with something that's maybe 110% version of me. And that's what I kind of advocate for in terms of a personal brand, but something that's easier to remember and pronounce, especially in the form of Frank. And Frank comes from my middle name. Both my grandfathers were Frank. And so that's where I pulled the name from. So it wasn't just out of left field that it was like, I'm just going to pick Frank. That sounds good. There was some meaning behind it. And it's a good little icebreaker in terms of why someone goes, your name's not Frank? What? I've been living a lie. Like they've had that so many times. And you have that kind of, you break down a bit of a barrier and you have a conversation that's just natural without talking shop or whatever. And it's the same thing with like having pink fingernails. It's like these icebreakers that just have allowed me to just get more personal with somebody rather than just being very serious and we need to fix your business problem and this is what we're here to do. That's the story. I don't regret it at all.
No, it's good. People do this all the time in Hollywood. They change their name because they have some crazy last name, and so they change their name to something.
Exactly.
Dwayne Johnson, that's not even weird, but he goes by The Rock, and anybody could yell The Rock out there out the window, and they would know who he's talking about. Sylvester Stallone is an interesting one because that's not a common name. Sylvester as a first name, not a common name. Everybody calls him Sly in the Hollywood world.
Well, I grew up in that world. My dad was in the music industry, and he was around all these artists that, again, didn't go by their actual name. Like Neil Diamond is just not Neil. He's probably got some Jewish name that is just very kosher, rather than diamond at the end. It's like putting gold at the end of your name. It's things like that I think it just puts on maybe a presence where you can remove yourself from the act that you are having to show up with, and you don't feel like you always need to be on. Maybe I don't know if that is why, but again, for me, it just comes back to making it easier for somebody to remember, to spell, to read and pronounce, and all the rest of it. So that might be why they do it. It could be for a myriad of reasons. They just again hate their name, hate their family. They just want to live a different life.
Just completely disown their entire origin.
Exactly.
This one out.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's like interesting. You brought up something that made it kind of sparked a thought in me. I do a lot of business coaching stuff, as you know, and sometimes people really struggle with being an introvert and feeling like that introverted thing. And in business, as you know, you have to figure out how to muster your internal extrovert so that you can actually sell, and so that you can speak with confidence, so that you can talk money with confidence with a CEO of another business and stuff. And I think there could be some benefit in people taking on a new persona that is different than who they really are by nature. And there's the Lily Schwarzbiener becomes Lily Starr, and that's the name that they go by in business.
Yeah.
And Lily
It's like
Starr isn't afraid of sales.
It's like the reverse Clark Kent, if you will. Like they take that Superman and Clark Kent analogy, like you are Clark Kent, but in Superman's world, it's the other way around. You want to be Superman. You want to come to the table and just be in your element and have the confidence and show up, like for me, like if I get in front of a camera, I'm usually a pretty reserved kind of person, very quiet generally. But as soon as I get in front of a camera, I know I need to amp it up till it's nearly uncomfortable. It seems obscene, where my wife is 3 rooms away going, "Can you shut your mouth? Like you are
dial
too
it
loud."
down a notch, man.
And I'm like, if I don't, it doesn't sound interesting and engaging, and you kind of have to bring it up to this level. And I used to work in television, and I met people away from the camera, and they were completely kind of different people, and to a certain degree of their energy that you see in front of a camera. And it's kind of, you get why you need to amp up this personality in a way. And that's why I say go at 110%. It's like that Spinal Tap movie, like crank it to 11 kind of thing.
Yeah, I love it.
And make it work for you. If it feels somewhat natural, like if it feels just so out of your depth, and I'm not going to recommend that, but it has its advantages, and it gives you a little bit more confidence, and then, it crescendos into something that you feel a bit more confident in other areas, like client conversations and awkward conversations when you meet someone new at like a party and you're like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like there's a little bit more that you can feel a bit more comfortable in that setting. So it has its advantages, I think.
It is an interesting thing on the video side of stuff. You do have to amp it up. Like if you're not at a level 7, it's boring to the people watching it. And for most of us, like if I look at my old content, my old content is like a level 3 in energy level. Yeah. I'm like, I thought I was amping it up back then, but I wasn't. It was just like so down, like just so serious. And then you just got to really push it harder to get to a level that any kind of charisma comes out and you can actually engage someone through the screen.
I remember I look back every now and then at one of the first conversations we had for one of your podcasts.
It's freaking forever. It was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was. And I'm sitting there in my old little office and just like talking, kind of like at this baseline tone. And I'm like looking back going, "Oh, you are so boring." Come on, man.
No, that's what I look at too. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
How did I get any audience at all when you start that way? But everybody starts that way. Everybody starts that way.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I look back at some YouTubers,
let's talk about,
if it was MKBHD, Marcus Brownlee, or some other people, you see some of their first videos, like you scroll all the way back through their feed and you see them and go, well, they started somewhere. Like they're this really like just energized, engaging character. And then now it's just like before you look back and go, well, I wonder how you found an audience to begin with, kind of thing.
Yeah. How did you get anybody?
Yeah. Anyway.
Mr. Beast is an interesting one because he's got all the audience of all time. And he's good, but he's not like Hollywood mojo
he's awkward as hell.
on screen. You know what I'm saying? He's not like Casey Neistat. You can see that kind of charisma come through the screen. Peter McKinnon, charisma coming through the screen. It's just bursting through there. And Mr. Beast isn't the same as that, but he's got some kind of mojo working for him.
I think it's playing off, maybe even in his case, is playing off the people around him, because the people that he's brought in have been such personalities in their own right. And then he has to kind of live up to that level. Otherwise, he just kind of gets overshadowed. Then you wonder, whose channel is this actually, kind of thing. So yeah, it might be there's some of all the people around you in his case that have made him a different, slightly different person. I can still see the awkward kid in him. Like, that's the thing. Like, you still see this awkward dude. And me and my son watch his videos every now and then. And it's just like, I can see this awkward dude, but you have so much money. You just want to entertain people. You want to do all these things, and you have to show up with this energy that is just obscene. So, like, my son thinks you have to be that energetic. And so he is that energetic. And it's a weird influence, but...
There's a thing that you got to find yourself though too, because I see people. Let's just go to the Instagram crew, and I was talking to James Martin about this last week. We were on one of those little session things together, and his energy on screen. I mean, I love him. He's become a super good friend of mine, and his charisma and his energy on screen and the pointing at his logos and stuff like that. It's just so not on brand for me. Yeah. I'm not going to do it, but it totally works for him. And we share a lot of audience between the two of us, but you have to channel into who you are. And I think Mr. Beast is maybe a good example of that too, that he's not out there trying to pretend to be anybody that he isn't. And I would say that of the other people too, the Peter McKinnon and Casey Neistat, who I mentioned, both have big audiences. They're just being themselves. Joe Rogan blew up when he finally embraced being himself. Like he was meh, like C-level Hollywood dude.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he just embraced being himself and has this massive podcast as a result.
Balls to the wall, I'd call it. It's just like going at it hard, whatever you think is inherently you that comes out. It's like if it's something that's been stifled over your life up until that point, and then you find your element, and then there's no reins on you, there's no pen that you're in, and then it's just like free reign. It's like a cow coming out after winter, and they're just like happy as Larry, and then they're in their element. They're like, yes, I can do whatever I want, say whatever I want. And you've got a platform to work with. It's great to see, and you feel that energy in somebody, and that's why I guess people will obviously watch. But you can kind of tell when someone's forcing it as well. It's just like, well, you'll get there kind of thing. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So let's talk about your content journey, because I've told you this many times, and I've told other people, you produce some of the highest quality content on all the platform. Your editing, your storytelling, the conceptual stuff, the whole package of it is always so interesting and so creative. It's not just like the cookie cutter, here's another one of G'day Frank's videos. It's always something a little fresh, a little unique, a little interesting, but you have not found a tipping point of massive explosion in growth. And then I mean, I've stalled out. Like the last 2 years, I've lost followers. I haven't grown at all. So I have mixed feelings about that stupid platform. But then when I see somebody like James Martin, who we just mentioned, who's grown 500,000 more followers in that same time frame, and it's not better content that he produces. It's just caters to the algorithm a little bit better than what you and I produce. But your content is so high quality, I get mad for you that it hasn't exploded. So what are your feelings like? How do you keep churning on it? And how did you get through some of those early times when lots of people were growing and you were producing great quality content and yours wasn't exploding? I mean, you have 41,000 followers or something on Instagram now, which is nothing to scoff at. It's an audience, a sizable audience. And for people now, that's a tough audience to grow. If you're starting Instagram today, that's hard to get you to 41,000 subscribers. Anyway, there's like 7 questions in what I just said, but what's kind of your emotions on this whole thing? Because I'm personally mad about it.
Yeah.
For you.
It's mixed emotions. It's always like this weird up and down, but there's some form of equilibrium that just keeps you wanting to make more. I don't know. It's because I feel like I want to make more than I consume, because it feels like a better use of my time. And it's like if I'm just going to continuously scroll and just watch total crap, it's like, well, I would have been better off putting my own crap out there kind of thing if it was going to be good or bad. But the tipping point for me a few months ago was I put out a piece of content. It was just to show a cool feature on this Adobe Firefly platform, and how I could turn a client's logo into something that was, visually just ridiculously amazing, like turning the logo into a lemon peel on a bar at like a pub kind of bar tabletop. And I was like, I could never make that in my life, but this has done it in 5 seconds. Here's what I can do with my client logos. Put that video up. It got some decent views for generally my videos, but it was half the amount of the following that I have. So I have say 40,000. It was 20,000. And 2 or 3 days later, 2 other creators both follow me. Both have obscenely larger followings. One has 200,000, I think. One has 700,000. I don't wish ill upon them at all. That's not the point here. But the point is more about Instagram, in that they did pretty much the exact same video about the exact same thing in the exact same kind of format. And the one with 200,000 got 2 million views. One with 700,000 got 7 million views. And I'm like, there's no playbook for a win here. It's just good luck kind of thing. And, it's like a scratch card. When you go to the lottery office or whatever, and you have those scratch cards and you're like, I hope I'm going to win. And it's like $1. And then someone else that just comes along, Lucky Joe, that's got, a squillion amount of dollars, can buy 100 of them. Like Mr. Beast, that video he's done where he's bought all the scratch cards and walks away with like $100 grand. And you're like, why you? Like, why not me kind of thing? What do I have to do to create something that these people follow me, they like my content, they make the same video, theirs gets better. What's the problem? And maybe I've done something wrong in my life. Probably I have. That's some bad juju that's catching up with me in some roundabout way. But
I don't think it's that.
Probably
I'm
not.
Fuming inside as a result of this. I'm so mad about that. And I'll tell you what I think they did that you didn't do. They researched content performing well or outperforming somebody else's audience.
Yeah.
And then they said, I'm going to take that content, make my version, and it will outperform on my audience too. Yeah. And their audience outperforms at 10x their normal thing. And so that's probably the difference. Because personally, I don't watch, I've never looked at somebody else's content and said, I'm going to make my version of that. In fact, if I see somebody do it,
I've done that.
I'm out.
I'm guilty of it. I put my own spin on it enough to put it into a context that's mine. It's usually from somebody that isn't in my field at all, and I'll spin it to change it to my kind of niche or industry, whatever you want to call it. But I'll give you another example that really shit me off big time. So we had a bit of content. It was like a carousel that I put up. And there was a guy, a fellow branding guy, and much respect to him, he actually asked for permission to say, hey, can I turn this into a video? And I said, well, look, the idea isn't mine. It's another dude that's in branding's idea that I asked him if I would be able to share this. And I credited him in the post and everything, put his nice, lovely head in it. And anyway, he said, I'll do the same. We said, fine, whatever. That video went to like 6 million people or something, grew his following by 100,000. And I was like, what do I need to do? Anyway, so then I did the same. I turned my carousel into a video, did my kind of spiel on it, put my face to it, gave a bit better context because the way he presented it was really falsifiable. You could falsify it in certain, you could pick apart some of the things he said in the way he said it wasn't delivered in the right way. And so I kind of blocked the holes on the argument. And it did well. It got 100,000 views, and I think I got maybe 1,000 or 2,000 followers, which was great for a video. And I don't really worry about followers, but this other schmo just copies his video, posts it on his, and it gets like 6 million views, and his account goes whooshka. He doesn't show his face. He's probably some dude in India, and just copies other people's content and does this faceless bullshit. And it's like, he's this like thought leader now. And it's like, oh my God, how do we deal with this? And I can totally understand the other side of it. It's like, dude, that's tall poppy syndrome. Like, I don't know if you're aware of that phrase. It's like it's like kind of a jealousy thing, seeing that somebody that's grown above you want to tear them down because they've grown higher than you. And it's very much a thing in Australian culture. It's tall poppy syndrome, where someone excels really well and then we tear them down. It's kind of like an Elon Musk, even though he's turning out to be a bit of a dickhead at the moment. But everyone was, trying to tear him down. The same thing probably happened if Jesus was a real person. He's saying all these amazing things. Nah, stuff you, mate. We're gonna pull you back down.
I mean, arguably they tore him down.
They did. They kind of did. Yeah.
You could say.
Yeah. So it's something that's just, I think, innate in human nature to want to have something and somebody else is doing what you want to be doing or the success that you want to have, and you can't help but feel that little bit of jealous. That you want to be humble, but it's like, goddamn, like, wouldn't it be nice just, that's the catch line, I think, for the lotteries here in Australia. Wouldn't it be nice? Like that to me is
it really the catchphrase? The
catchphrase, yeah. Wouldn't it be
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice to win $1 million? Anyway. Yeah. So it's a love-hate relationship. Like obviously my content has generally, I've made some content aimed at designers, but generally it's been aimed at trying to attract a client. And I don't see many designers do that apart from just showing their work and going, here's what I've done. Have a look. Here's some show and tell. The rest that have these followings are catering to designers. And that seems what the formula is to get an audience. And I don't want to be the dude that creates the next pen tool tutorial. Like that just to me is just, I'd rather watch paint dry. It's not interesting to me. I don't think that that's interesting to a client necessarily. Like maybe there's other content on there that they'll show of how they designed a logo or branding or whatever, which is the stuff I do want to see. But I don't want to create content for designers because they're the ones that aren't buying what I'm offering. And it makes zero sense. Like if you're a real estate agent, you're not catering to other real estate agents. Like you're in competition with all the other ones. Whereas the creative community is like this little, sunshine and rainbows community where it's just nice. It's lovely. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, where's the competition? Like, we're trying to compete in position against each other. So yeah, it's an odd game. It's an odd game, but,
it is an interesting, interesting mix of audience to designer. I don't feel like I'm in that because my business is to educate designers. So I'm intentionally attracting designers because I'm trying to educate designers, not because I'm trying to compete with them on projects. But you're still doing client projects. You do a lot of branding projects and you do high quality work. And so you are competing against the same people who are consuming your content and then stealing your content, and it outperforms your content. And then it's just so infuriating to me, that world. But there's nowhere like it. Maybe the fitness world has that kind of everybody following each other. The fitness influencers are following the other fitness influencers and liking each other's posts and things. I could see that happening inside of that industry. But that's like the end of the industries that I could see where people are trying to build an audience of their own competitors.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it comes down to like this idea of it's like a synthetic credibility, if you will. Like what you're following is tied to how good you are. And it's like, this wasn't a thing 15 years ago when I started doing this design stuff. Like this wasn't a case. You were measured based on the experience you had of working with certain clients, the kind of work you would produce, maybe the person that you are as well in terms of the way you network with people. But then there's this like measurable KPI of credibility now of following. If you took following away, I've said it for many years, like it would even out the playing field to bring down this yardstick of what's good and what's not. Oh, it would be amazing. And that's not from me saying because I'm at 40,000 and someone's at 1 million followers. It's just look at the quality, because I've had people that have gone to somebody with 500,000 followers for work and then come back to me as sloppy seconds going, oh, dude, I was going to go work with them and they, blah, 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 stuffed me around and everything. It's like, well, why did you go to them first? Oh, well, they had a big following. And it's like, yeah, great, thanks. That was all what you were measuring it off. But I can understand that, the following there is that quick barrier to entry. It can get you in. It's obviously getting some attention. That's how you're being discovered, because you are pleasing the algorithm, and that's how you're being discovered as a result. But yeah, if you took that metric away, damn, it'd be a different world, I reckon.
Yeah, unfortunately, that
It's
world
never
is
go away.
never
It's
coming
never
back.
going to go away. No,
The
exactly.
world, it's never going to go away. If anything, it's just going to become
Yeah.
more prevalent in the future.
Yeah.
I do
And
feel bad for the people who are starting now to try and build a following, because it is a tougher game than it's ever been. Like the amount of content getting posted, it's just competitive. I think my advice to people is don't chase the freaking algorithm. Just be you. Make content that you want to make, that's interesting to you, that's fun for you to make. And then at least you get the validation of enjoyment in creating the thing.
Yeah.
How it performs, that's just a bonus. But if it was fun for you to make and fun for you to share, then let that be your payoff. And anything else that comes is just bonus win, not the intention.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the duality for me. It's like, yes, I want to create content that will bring in some work, but at the other end of it, it's like a hobby. It's become like a hobby of flexing a creative muscle in a different way, where there's an objective to it. It's not just doing an artwork and going, oh, I just like painting kind of thing. That's what my wife does, and she does really well at it. But in terms of me, it's like I've got all this gear around me. I may as well put it to use. I know how to use the stuff. Let's make something that's interesting that I would like to watch, and maybe someone else will like it too, because there's always going to be somebody at least out there that will, if you like it, somebody else will like it. That's my thing. The audience might be big, it might be little, whatever. If you're doing it for yourself, you've got this little proud moment, or, you know, I catch myself just laughing at my own content, going, dude, you're an
I do
absolute
the same.
idiot.
I love some of my own content. I'm so in love with
So
myself
vain.
when I make content. I'm like, I love myself.
All right.
Yeah.
Right, settle down. Settle down.
It's true though. But that can be the payoff. You can be
can
like,
be.
oh gosh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
so funny to me. So funny to me.
It is. And
Yeah.
it's just like that little moment. And like my wife generally comes in. Like I'd make content a lot of the time at night when the kids are in bed. And my wife will come in, she has to get up early, and she'll say good night. And then I say, oh, just come look at this. And she's just like,
Yes.
man,
Yes.
you're just a knobhead. Like, look at
Yes.
Anyway.
That's so fun. I'm like sending it in message and texting it to people. I'm like, check this out, because I want that validation before I send it to the public.
Yeah. That's why I can't
the
schedule
wolves.
content. I need to get it out as soon as possible. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm just going to make it and then put it out. I can't schedule it because I'm like, I want people to see this.
Oh, you do? You don't schedule? You just post it when it's ready?
When I'm done,
Launch.
it's out. Yeah. I
Yeah.
really hate sitting on stuff, because it's like, I'm like, I'm try to be as patient as possible. And I'm trying to instill that in my son, who's only 7, and there's just no chance. But there's some things in life that I'm just not patient about, and content is one of them, where it's like I'm done. I'll start making it at 7 o'clock. It's now 10 o'clock. I've finished it. I'll put it out, and then, you know, just wait and see what happens, kind of thing, without worrying, because I know that that's the kind of window anyway where the content gets seen by the most amount of people, and that's how I'd done it for the last 5 years. But yeah, it's just like, it's always been fun to make. There's never been a time where it's a bit of a chore. Having done like some brand partnerships, that's been a little bit more of a chore, because, you know, you need to appease somebody else, whereas this is just for me, and you can do kind of whatever. There's no reins on it. But to me, it's just always been something fun. If it's a video, if it's something design related, if it's something writing, even to be able to become a better writer, that's helping as well. So there's some payoffs from it. But then, as I said before, the confidence level is just something else that has brought a personality out of me that has probably always been there, but it's just like, here comes the show pony. Like, here he is, Pink Boy. And, you know, lights, camera, action, I guess. So yeah, it's if it doesn't become fun, that's when I don't want to make it. And that's what happened with Instagram. It just wasn't becoming fun, because it wasn't, there was no target. Like, I just bought a dartboard for Father's Day the other day we had here in Australia. And it's like playing darts blindfolded, and then being told, well, maybe there's a dartboard in front of you, but maybe not. And then we're going to spin you around 5 times and just have a dig and see what happens. And it could hit, and it might not. It really felt like that, and that just shit me to tears. Not good.
Yeah. It did me too. I mean, in the last couple of years, Instagram has just been a drag for me. And you can see it in my content. I tried a few different template-y ways to repurpose stuff and just, poop out fast content. And it performs like pooped out fast content. It's nothing special. Yeah, I did get excited. I have a new wave of content that I started yesterday. And the first one was about the moldy cheeseburgers, the moldy Whoppers. Yep. And today was about the first 3 brands on the moon. And I did this whole spoof of, did we really land on the moon? And if we did, here were the first 3 brands on the moon. I had people unfollowing me. They had people in the DMs. People are in my DMs and they're like, you should delete this content. It used to be fun to joke about stuff like that, but everybody hates it now, or people take it really seriously. And I'm like, hey, people are freaking commenting on my post for the first time in 2 years. I'm going to just take it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to delete it. So, but the unfollow people, I'm like, come on, can you not get from my entire vibe that this is tongue in cheek? And I joke in the freaking thing like 20 times, but some people just take it so seriously. The troll world is real, man.
Yeah,
it's real.
I was listening to an episode of Joe Rogan. I've been doing walks in the morning first thing when I get up, and I was listening to this Joe Rogan episode with Russell Crowe, the Gladiator actor, and he was talking about
who Russell Crowe is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Russell Crowe.
Well, just in case.
You're proud of him because he's Aussie, right?
No, he's a Kiwi originally, but anyway.
Oh, he is?
There's much debate about who he is. Anyway, that aside, he was talking about doing a movie a few years back called Noah, based on the Noah's Ark kind of biblical story.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it and didn't hear much about it, probably for this reason, is that American media panned it because they said that it was about global warming. It had a global warming agenda. And it was like, sorry, what? We're going to get upset about a biblical story that was written thousands of years ago? Okay, fair enough. Let's dive
Wait, and the global warming agenda was like, hey, there's global warming. I thought Hollywood was like all back in the global warming, climate change thing. So why would they ban something that was like supporting the mantra?
He could make 2 cents of it. He was like, everyone will just have a whinge about whatever. And I'm not saying that I don't have a whinge about things. Like, I've seen content from fellow designers that I've just gone, nah, I'm not having that. Not having a bar of that. Like the logo fix content where I see a lot of different designers saying, I'm going to fix this famous logo. I was like, well, no. I just wrote no. No. And then I got blocked by one of the dudes doing it. And I was like, well, what do I? You can't take a little bit of criticism? Jeez, man.
I think I know who blocked you, because we're not going to say names on here, but I know that person blocked another person that I'm close to.
Yes.
Yep.
He who must not be named.
That's the one. So, and that's a shame. That's a shame, really, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Life's too short not to block people. I'm fully for that. Like, block me or whatever. It's okay.
Yeah.
But just to someone to say, nah, I don't really like that. Like, okay, fair enough. You do what you do. Like, the same thing as well. I said this to somebody yesterday. If you get between a man and providing for his family, like between him and making bread, be prepared for war kind of thing, because this is his whole game. And if that's what it was, then, whatever. That's fine. He can do whatever he wants. But it was just, to me, it was just a bit comical. I was like, don't be a bit of a snowflake, man.
Everybody's got to just dial it down a notch, people. This is like that. Like, come on. Do we have to block the people because they're...
I mean, I didn't follow him. I didn't follow the dude anyway. Like, I got sent all his content.
Criticism. So dial it down a notch. Just dial it down. Like, the intensity level is crazy out there.
Yeah, people are heightened. Everyone's angry. It's like, you only have to go on Threads. Like, when Threads open, it was like sunshine and rainbows, and then it quickly became Twitter. And it was just like, like even during the Olympics, like there's a thing in the American media, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, doesn't really matter, but NBC and all the rest of them in media would tally the medal tally by total medals, so that America would always be on top.
Whereas I saw it. I saw it. We didn't have the most golds, but we had the most medals, and so we were on top. Yeah.
Yes. Always have to be on top. America, number one, always. And that's America's agenda.
I'm well aware of the country that I live in and their desired stature in the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is the thing, like every other country, it's like kilometers and miles. You guys are in miles, we're in kilometers. A kilometer's what?
What the freak? Don't get me started on that, man. Why are we in miles? It's the stupidest thing. It is the stupidest thing. Inches, miles, pounds. What the freak?
Yards, gallons.
It's
something that's. But that aside, the contention was, Americans, fun Americans always trying to be number one, but no Americans could really hack it. In threads are like, oh yeah, you're just, you just got the shit. It's like, what, silver doesn't mean anything, bronze doesn't mean anything. It's like the aim is to win. Yes, participation, fantastic. You came second, that's a huge achievement. But the IOC, they count by gold, my friend, and you want to count by total medals. And it was just that was a real example of how people are just pissed off about everything. It's like something as inane as a medal tally. Like I got all these comments of just people going off at me. I was like, dude, this is how they count it. Why are you worried about it? No, America. And there's this really ingrained, nature about we have to be number one and patriotism. And anyway,
what are we going to do, man? What are we going to do? Because it's not going away. The intensity level, like how does it dial down? I got it. I know when it's going to happen. When aliens attack and the world has to come together as one world. One world. You see it all the time, like in the movies. Yep. They're predicting the future there. When the aliens come and they attack, we will have to unite as a people worldwide.
Yes.
And that will be a happy, the great and terrible day is what that will be. The great and terrible day.
Welcome to Earth. Boom.
That's the one. That's the one. We could probably find like 7 or 8 other movies that have the same story, but it is what'll happen.
Hopefully one day. That's the utopia.
I do get frustrated at the world because the media is just stoking that fire so much. And now we get the feed, we get the media feed no matter where you go. Even Threads, it trickles into there because somebody with influence watched it somewhere, got riled up, and then they bring their riled up energy into your thread about something that really doesn't matter. And so that it's that energy that's just starting at the top and trickling into society. And it just makes me sick inside. Oh, I hate it. I hate it.
You feel the tension, especially when you get involved in it, you feel the tension inside you. It's like during the pandemic, even we turned off the news, just completely just didn't watch it for a time. And just the anxiety levels of having to see what the COVID numbers were that day, just, deflated.
They put the freaking COVID number on the screen like it's like a... This is a countdown to the end of the world. The number keeps going. It's like playing the Plague Inc. game on your phone, Plague Inc. Did you ever play Plague Inc.?
No, I didn't. No.
It's your goal is to create your own pandemic, your plague, and then to annihilate everybody in the world. And you have to mutate your plague to infect people and then to give it
created by Bill Gates.
It is. It was like part of the future programming of society.
Microtransactions of vaccines sponsored by Bill Gates Foundation.
I feel like we were living that though, and we don't need. I don't want to get political on this stuff, but I'm really frustrated by that because it brings just the tone that starts there that funnels through everything and turns what could be positive, supporting online environments into troll land, and it makes me sick inside when it happens. I just get it makes me sad, and it makes me sad for people like you when people go after you, and I'm like, or block you. I'm like, Frank Reagan, G'day, Macreal, whatever he wants to call himself. He's a good dude. He's a good dude. Like, you shouldn't be the kind of person that people are like blocking like you're some hater troll. But
Yeah,
that's the
no,
world that we're in.
each to their own. You got to protect, like you got to weed your garden. I guess that would be the saying. Maybe is find the place that I guess you're comfortable in, and some people just want to stamp all over other people's gardens. I guess that's kind of it. Like they've got free reign and they want to do it. Toughen up if you don't. And there's some people that are very A-type kind of people that just come in alpha male dog and just rain on the parade just to bring you down a peg. And yeah, it's always going to happen. But it's always a thing that if it was in real life, would you say it? And that's kind of the yardstick for me is if I put something out there, would I say it to someone's face in real life? That's the yes or no answer for me, whether I post it. And sometimes I posted something and then not felt good about it and then taken it down, like just some quip and going like, fuck this. I don't want to do, and then no,
I don't want to deal with the backlash.
Yeah, it's just not going to be worth it. Whatever. I'll just keep my thoughts inside like they should be. So yeah, there's going to be moments like that where your inhibitions just are gone and you go, what? And then you have to deal with the ramifications sometimes. But some people just have no internal, conscience that just goes, maybe not, maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got stung on a few things that over the years, and you learn to be extra careful.
Yeah. Or either that or you grow a backbone. Yeah, either one.
Yeah, or a little both. That's what happened. Like, you gotta. Sarcasm does not transition well worldwide. This is the problem. And my style of humor has a lot of sarcasm in it.
Yeah.
America is that way in general, but I have a global audience that sometimes does not understand the American style sarcastic humor. And they take things seriously that are meant in jest, and then you deal with the ramifications of that. And I got to be careful. I am careful, and I have a thicker backbone than I used to. Like that stuff used to just hurt, man. It hurt. I'd hide on social media for like 3 days, trying to muster the courage to post something again. And it's sad. It's sad.
It can hit you. Like I'll give you an example. I was thinking about this today, actually. Excuse me. I think a year, or maybe 2 years ago, I got nominated. There was like a challenge for men's mental health to do like 25 push-ups a day for like a month or something. And I suck at push-ups and just general activity in terms of exercise, fitness kind of thing. Like I'm good at sport, but just like working out is just not me at all. Not that kind of guy that finds interest in it. Anyway, that aside, I was doing them, and there's a thing here in Australia. People might have said this back in the day in America. I don't know too. But I said, oh, my girly arms just can't take this. And then I got pulled up by a few ladies, that I do respect. And they said, girly arms? And I was like, okay, yep, all right. And talked to my wife about it and my mother-in-law. And I said, would this offend you? And they said, no, I've got I've got more things to worry about than some guy saying he's got girly arms. Anyway, but I took the advice that someone said, girly arms, maybe not. And the next day I came back and just said, look, I said this, it might have offended you. I'm sorry if it did. I'm going to keep working out these man arms and get them to a man arms respectable level that I want them to be. And sorry for the, inconvenience.
Well, did you get in trouble for that? For genderfying your arms?
No, that was before this whole thing came, I think, the whole gender stuff. So I don't want to get into that because that's just a minefield. But
no, that's forums and...
Yeah, there's a forum for it. But it's just
I don't know where that forum is. It's not in social media where nobody's going to get anywhere on that arguing with somebody on their Threads account. I think that all that kind of stuff, you just have to be careful. I do a lot of checking the origin of a phrase, and I did that just before we got on. I was like, because when I saw, and I know your last name and I have for years and years, but mackerel. And I was like, okay, where did that phrase holy mackerel come from? Because I don't know, you guys ever say that in Australia? Holy mackerel?
Yeah.
So holy mackerel was, and I was like, I got to be careful. I have to know the origin of this phrase so that I can be careful if I shouldn't be saying it or not. And it is a reference to Catholics eating fish on Fridays. And that was the holy mackerel. And that's where the phrase holy cow came from also. It's a reference to Hindu cow. And so it's those are the origins. Now, can we say it or not? I don't know. I think you probably can. I can still say holy mackerel, I think. I'm not sure. It's like the rules of this stuff sometimes changes day to day, and you're not sure what you can say and say.
What's kosher or not, Mike? What's kosher or not? There you go.
Can you say that? Can you say that it's kosher or not? I don't think you can say that.
Maybe not.
I think
gosh,
you're getting yourself in trouble with this.
We'll just shush. Just have a podcast of just sitting there going,
you can't say shush because shush comes from the origin of
you can't breathe because breathing is creating these
true,
gases.
Though. Like shush, where does that come from? It probably comes from the sound, but what if there was some background to that? I get so close to, I overthink this stuff on podcasts because I speak in a lot of those kinds of phrases and stuff. Anyway.
Well, I gave this one yesterday. I was talking to Ian Paget, the logo geek.
I love Ian.
And
so great.
I used this reference of being so close to something happening. And the phrase that we use here in Australia is a bee's dick away. And he's like, what? A bee's dick? Is that like an Australian saying? I'm like, yeah, it might be elsewhere. I don't know, but it just means really so close to something, very small amount. And he's like, okay, I might use that one from now on. But again,
good. He's going to start. So it's
don't make your logo. Don't make your logo a bee's dick.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's interesting. You got to be careful. I produce so much content. Inevitably, somebody's going to find something to be upset about or frustrated about or whatever, or offended. And I think it's unavoidable. I think just in general, you have to look at the intention of the person. And most of the people that I associate with and the people that I have on this podcast and my other content, the people who I'm friends with, nobody's out there to be a mean, bad person. Everybody loves other people. And in the design community, that's the majority of the people you find too. Like this is a very accepting, open, loving community of people worldwide. I've seen it worldwide. Yeah. That's who the design world is. And so dial it down a notch if you get all mad at somebody else, because likely they're just a good person that's just trying to do good, and they could be your friend in real life if you had a friend, if you had the opportunity to be friends with them in real life. So I think
absolutely.
Just know that about people.
I guess the only thing is you go on LinkedIn, and if you put stuff on LinkedIn, especially something that's to do with marketing, you get these old white dudes. And no offense to you, Mike, I don't see you as an old white dude by any stretch of the imagination.
But good. But you can't say old white dudes anymore. So keep going. That's the one demographic you're allowed to still use as a bash.
Well, that's it. I was listening to Ricky Gervais this morning on my walk. He was doing a talk, and he said that, everyone is all this cancel culture and minority groups, and you can't say a bad thing about minorities. And he's like, I'm an old, white, Caucasian, heterosexual, multimillionaire. I'm like the 1% of my kind of people. So don't cancel me, kind of thing. It was a very good joke, but that was funny.
Yeah, he's funny. He's been bold. Said some stuff.
So what he said in that, I was like, walking going, oh my. But this is the thing.
I know.
It depends on the context as well. Like, yes, it's comedy, and you should leave it as comedy and nothing more than that. But I said this to my wife when it came back. I was telling her about listening to it, and I said, if he wasn't who he was and got up on stage and did that without any pre-context of what he's done before, to understand his vibe, understand who he is, what he has done, what his kind of comedy is, he'd be cancelled like Louis C.K. Like, he'd just be out in the gutter kind of thing. And I think that kind of comes down to what kind of boundaries you have is based on everything maybe you've done before that people can understand it, but hopefully based on the context, you're not taken out of that context. And, you put one thing Ricky Gervais said in like a media headline, it would shit the bed. Everything would be, a clusterfuck because of it, because you've taken it out of context. If you keep it as a comedy special, that's where it should be. That's where it stays. It doesn't need to be said anything more because it's a joke. It's not real. And leave it at that. But some people will just take it that little bit too serious. It hits them. A little bit. It hits them, and then
explain to me how Robert Downey Jr. did not get canceled for Tropic Thunder.
Yeah,
that's the one that is mind blowing to me.
I think probably he's talked about it before, how he got through it, I guess, but without being unscathed effectively. I think it was just because the character in itself was just a total dickhead, like, to begin with. Like, that was the reason why it kind of worked, was that the character was just insane inherently, so it removes itself away from it. Whereas he said, like, I had a whole heap of black friends, I think he said, that said, dude, that was hilarious. Like, that was just unbelievable. But maybe, again, context or timeline or wherever you are, change. Like, if Tropic Thunder was made now, would it work? It probably wouldn't be approved by a studio now, because it'd be like risk averse. No goddamn way.
No way.
And this is why Disney's changing as well to, everything Star Wars and Marvel and everything else is just... not what the Disney everyone kind of grew up with. I think that's the kind of other part to it too. But
I'm surprised Disney Plus has, Saw movies on there and stuff now. It has some horror movies. Like, it's got anything you want, and it's on Disney Plus. So there's definitely a brand positioning change.
Whereas you watch like Peter Pan, like the 1950s animation, and it's got a warning at the start saying, please, we apologize for our depiction of Native Americans, Indians in this movie. Whereas then you've got somebody like Saw, or if they had like Human Centipede on Disney, it's like two people like stuffed together, but we're going to apologize to these people. It's like it's a weird... as you said, positioning is just it's not right. Then you've got like the Kardashians on there or something maybe as well. And it's like, how do these two work symbiotically? I don't know. But
I don't know. And I don't make those rules, and I try hard to follow the rules when they become clear. And that clear line seems to change from time to time.
You want to be on the right side of what the line is. You don't want to...
I feel like this conversation, I'm like prone to being canceled just for talking about this stuff. And we haven't been intentionally offensive to anyone. But we're offending cancel culture. We're offended by cancel culture in general, or frustrated or upset about it, or careful about it. And just that alone makes me nervous of getting canceled. That's the world we live in. And that's, I think, some frustrating, hard things to navigate.
And I think if you aren't willing to hear a perspective of somebody else, that's the problem. Where I guess it comes from. If someone talks about something that you don't agree with, and I found myself nearly turning off something I was going to watch because I didn't really agree with something that somebody was saying, but then sort of stuck with it and just let it kind of marinate in my head, where this is somebody else's opinion. Why am I getting upset about somebody else's opinion? It's their opinion, not mine. I'm never going to meet this person in my life. I'm never going to have an interaction with them. Why am I getting upset about this? And that's the kind of mental mind games that everybody will not think about. They'll just go within, what the thought train is, and just go, I'm offended by that. It's like, yes, you are offended by it. Somebody else isn't offended by it. That's your opinion. That's your view, not mine, not somebody else's. And that kind of respect, I think, is gone completely. And I think you've got to check yourself. That to me is like the answer to all this conundrum.
Love is the answer. Just love. Love other people.
All right, John Lennon.
Accept them for who they are. Accept them for who they are. Honestly, we could benefit from a little more of that in the world.
We could. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you have another meeting to jump onto here in a minute
no, I'm
or
good.
so.
If you wanted to chat some more, I'm good. No, my thing cancelled. So if you wanted to,
good. Hey, good. Well, we still have.
if you want to let
John
me go,
on.
that's fine. We can.
I think we've said so much that we're at risk of being canceled, and we've had the full thread of this conversation. I would hate to change topics because you and I could end up talking for another 4 hours about.
Well, maybe we do this. We do something that is positive. What is something positive that we could
That's
talk
good.
about?
I like it. Good. Okay. Tell me. I did put this on my questions. You have a 7-year-old and you have another baby, right? You have another kid.
Yeah.
How old?
3-year-old.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. How did that change your perspective in life in general? What kind of transformation did you have as a result of kids, and how does it affect you as an entrepreneur?
There's added pressure because you got to provide for more than just yourself. You've got to be pretty well defined in terms of your time management in some respects. My wife always says, you're terrible with time. You turn up to things like an hour late or whatever. But I don't do that with my business. It's always on time. I'm there. Like if it's 9:30, I am there on the dot for it, and try and make the best intention to not be late. But then that's the same thing where you've got to have the motivation to do these things, especially if you're running your own business. It's all on you to make sure it's operating. Otherwise, your family just doesn't have internet, doesn't have food on the table, doesn't have power, doesn't have a house to live in, and all the other luxuries that we are lucky to have. When that's all on you, it's a big weight, especially when work isn't coming in and things don't feel easy, and you're like, wow. It's kind of character building, but the other end of the spectrum is, yes, you can be proud about it, but the other part of it, you're frustrated as hell and you're stressed out as hell, and that can be then deflected on those around you, and that's definitely not going to be at your clients because otherwise you're stuffed. But then you end up doing it towards your family, and then you have to really just make sure that doesn't happen. So as soon as you walk out the door of your office, you leave your work behind and then move into family mode and know when to chop and change. And so you've got to have a little bit more patience, I think, kind of in general, a little bit more organization. And it's a struggle. Like my son tests me like nothing else. Like he's the biggest test I reckon I've had, bar any clients that have been.
How does he test you? What do you mean? How does he test you?
Oh, he doesn't listen, doesn't do as you're asking. It takes a requirement of several times you ask, to the point where it is a lot more forceful in terms of saying either loudly or let's go. We need to get in the bath. We need to eat our food. We need to go to school. Come on, buddy, let's listen. And there might be some things developmentally with him going on, and then I'm not, because it doesn't make sense to me, like rationally, why would you behave like this when this is a kid that just has no kind of inhibitions? They just do what they want and they're happy to do it. So for you, it's like you got to change your approach to what you think is right for them. You go in not knowing what to do to begin with anyway when you have kids, and I'm sure you would have known that with your boys, but throughout it you find out what kind of person you really are in a different kind of setting, if you will, like with playing with other kids as I grew up, and having friends that have had kids or cousins that have been younger. Interacting with them has always been fine, but with my own kids, it's like a different kind of interaction that you have, where you have to be this role model. You have to be someone that keeps them in check so they don't do the wrong thing or kill themselves, or they make sure that they're healthy and they're fed and they're washed and clean and everything. All these responsibilities you got to have while also having responsibilities with a business is like next level. It's like, it's just something else. If I had employees, I'd probably keel over and die. So that's my next echelon. Once my kids are old enough to sort of support themselves in a way that they can, feed themselves in certain respects and, bathe themselves and all the rest of it. Once
At
I'm
least
at that,
poop
once
in
I'm
a
at that-
toilet.
Yeah.
At least they can poop in a toilet.
Well, they can do that
Once
now,
they
which
get
is
to that.
thank a godsend. Thank
Okay,
God.
that's
But
good.
we're still
That's a
dealing with
good thing.
nappies though here and there. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things that once they're a bit more self-sustained, then I would focus probably more on another commitment where I have a different responsibility, where it maybe is employees. And so my hat's off to people, and you would have gone through this with your agency of having that extra responsibility of having to feed somebody else's family that has you have no influence over other than making sure that they're paid and they've got enough work to do. That would be excruciating for me at the moment. That's why I'm just trying to lay some foundations at least to wait to that point and not rush it. But kids is a spanner in the works, and finding time and people saying, oh, how do you find time to make content and stuff when you've got a business, you've got a family, and you do all these things?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you make time. And if you don't have any of those responsibilities, like everyone has their problems in life, everyone has their things going on, great. But you have an obscene amount of time comparatively to what I feel like I have. So, there can't be a comparison, surely. But that's just for me an irrational thought.
You gave one of the secrets early on in this conversation about how you have time. You said something along the lines of, I try to make more than I consume.
Yes.
So instead of just doom scrolling, you'll go make a piece of content for the other doom scrollers.
Yeah.
This is what you
feed the machine.
This is what you do. Yeah. You'll
exactly.
feed the doom scrollers rather than consume what they're consuming. But I do think that if you look at, if you like audit your time in a day and how much time are we spending doom scrolling or Netflix watching or whatever. And to be honest, I have no problem with people doing that. I do that. That's my, give me a screen and that's how I can turn off my mind for the day. So I'm going to stream something and it's my iPad or my phone or whatever. I'm watching guitar videos or whatever. I mean, I'm in a screen. That's how I turn off my brain. So I have no problem with people doing it. Just don't complain about not having time to make content if that's what you're doing with your time. Do it with your time. Be fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody has to be making freaking, 2-minute movies of the quality that you're doing.
Yeah,
on your content.
Definitely not. I'm not advocating that you need to do all this to make it something worthwhile. But even to me, like this last couple of weeks, I was in prior to the last couple of weeks, I was in this sort of funk of, I've got all these things to do. I want to do also all these other things. How am I going to get them done? And you just always forget. It's like plan it out. So I put this sticky note, like a post-it note on my computer. It just says plan it out. And then every week now I make this religion, this dogmatic thing of opening up my notes, writing down a list of what I'm doing in my work week. And I only have 4 days. So I have my daughter on a Monday. And so I've only got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to do my work, and then work on my business at night generally. And I want to make a vlog. I want to write a book. I want to create, this podcast I'm doing twice a week and have all these commitments.
You're doing twice a week on that?
Yeah, it's so simple where I just sit down, talk for 15, 20 minutes to a question, hit record, hit end, and then that's it. I upload. There's no editing. There's nothing I need to do. I've fine-tuned it down into something that is achievable. Because if it wasn't, it'd be a chore and I'd be like, stuff this. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And so, over the last few months, it's got to episode 33, and I just make it a monotonous kind of task that still feels fun to do because I'm talking about something different each time, but it's automated to a point where it's the drag isn't the editing side of things, which can be the drag for some people.
Yeah.
That's why they fall out of love with some of these things. Like if it's writing a book, like I was talking to Ian about that, the thing that he found the most difficult was the editing part rather than the writing part. Some people might find it with their content, editing it rather than shooting it is the laborious part. All these things. But to me, it's just planning out that week, and it becomes so much clearer. You have much more clarity and much more enthusiasm to know what's ahead of you without, forgetting things or, getting flustered about all this stuff coming in, especially if, you get some surprises. Either the kids are sick or my wife has to take an extra shift of work where she would usually have the kids on a day, or a new client comes in and you're like, far out, where do I fit them in? All these things. So for me, it's just if I can be as organized as possible and be very regimented about it, that will work for me. It might not work for others. I fully appreciate that. But it's something that I found kind of a positive to go, okay, if I know what I'm doing, then I can do all these things. I want to go out there and do all these things. So like shooting a vlog has been really, really fun the last couple of weeks. It's only been 2 weeks, so it's come back to me in 10 weeks, but
see if it's still going.
Yeah, exactly. But having watched other people make them, if it was Peter McKinnon or Casey Neistat and others, that to me, just documenting your life and seeing life through the lens of somebody else and sharing that with somebody, I think that's a different kind of perspective than just going, hey, here's the work I've made, revel in it kind of thing. See the behind the scenes hopefully is something that might be of interest, but to me it's interesting to make. So it's fun.
Your blog is on YouTube. I have your YouTube up right now. Well, you did blog a few years ago. You started doing a little blog stuff 3 years ago.
Yeah, I did.
Vlog.
Video log. I did 3 when I went away for a conference. But the weird thing about that conference was I was away from the family for the first time like ever. And that conference was a bit, not heavy, but it kind of made you think a lot more introspectively. So I got really emotional throughout the whole experience. And I was away from the experience because I was always like, what's the next shot? What's the next shot to make this of interest? And so I was like, flying a drone down this city river and all this other stuff. Like it was really fun to make, but I was just, I was detracted from the actual experience of being there. I mean, it was actually the conference you were supposed to talk at. And it got to the point where everything just hit me and I was like, I got to switch this off. Like I've done 3 days. I'm going to leave it at that and then just enjoy the last day or so I have. And that made it much better. I was much happier the next day. But doing it this way is just throughout a week, documenting a little bit of a day or talking about a certain topic while interjecting bits of my day and you kind of see what I'm up to. We'll see what happens with it.
That's good. Well, I would say, how do you find the time? But you already talked to that. But you got a lot of irons in the fire to have little kids and be still doing client work. So kudos to you for that effort.
Oh, likewise.
It doesn't go unnoticed, and I'll tell you that. And in kind of our wrap up conversation here, I've admired your content since day one. It's always been so polished, so thoughtful and so creative, and I mentioned that at the start of this, but it's always been so good, and I've admired it, and it's motivated me to keep my quality level up. So you're one of the people that.
Well, let me ask you this.
I look at it.
Let me ask you this because this is my hunch is that there's a few creators that follow me, but not a lot of them engage with my content. They see it. I know they see it because I see you watching my stories. And let me ask you, and you probably won't be this kind of person, but do you see it and go, oh man, screw you, dude. I need to go and make something now because I've seen this stuff. I'm just gonna go now. Is that the kind of feeling you might get from the content? Because I feel like that's what it is from some people looking at it and going,
maybe,
oh man, really.
They feel like they don't want to try and compete at that quality level, and so they're just disgruntled, or not disgruntled, but demotivated.
Yeah, I don't know what the feeling would be, but it's why that engagement isn't there is something that has puzzled me. I've had engagement over the year from people with certain bits of content. It's oh, why now? Why with this one? You follow me for so well, but I know you rarely engage with this. And then you pop up with a random video that you like, and it's oh, okay, well, that's what it took, kind of thing, to get you out of your cage and engage with me. Because every person that does engage me, I always write a comment back. I always reply. If someone sends me a DM asking me a question, I always reply to it. I always have time for it, unless you are a copywriter or a high ticket sales lead generation person. I'm no, I don't have time for you. But I don't know, man.
look, for you, this would be my advice for you. Not that you're asking for my advice, but you did ask for why I don't
Free
engage
coaching.
with your content. I watch your content. For you, man, enjoy the creative process. It doesn't go unnoticed by people. It doesn't go unnoticed, whether they reply or not. And I say this to people relating to sales in their business. You can email your client and people get all like, oh, I emailed them and they didn't email me back. It does not matter. Yeah. It does not matter. You still got a touch point with them in their inbox. And that touch point was a reminder that you exist. And then you can do it again next month with your newsletter, and the month after, and the month after. And then they didn't reply to any of them, but out of the blue, they message you and say, hey, I got a project for you. It comes out of the blue, but they didn't even reply. You message them a custom email, and they still didn't reply. They just ghost you, you think. But the reality is it's a touch point, and you should look at your content that way too. I'm just going to produce it because it's fun for you to produce. Yeah. You enjoy it. It's fun. You have built enough of an audience that you have an Adobe sponsorship, Adobe content that you're sharing and stuff. So it's
something. I don't lose sleep over it. It's just an interest level because I'm not making the content for them. So I'm not expecting engagement from a fellow creative that does what I do. Yeah. I would expect them to ghost it completely and not engage because why would you? But it's one of those things that I just always find interesting. It's like, well, you follow me. I follow you because I want to support you because you do what it is I do. I'd like to see, I like what you do. And I'd like to see you do well as a result because if you do well, we all do well generally because you're pushing up the value of what it is we do. But yeah, it's just interesting. I always look at my stories and just see the people, all that I follow. I'm not bagging you out, Mike, but not engaging me. Please don't feel like you have to like every comment.
Nobody replies to mine either. Nobody replies to mine either. So it's not just you.
It's just fun.
Don't have a pity party.
It's just fun being able to see those people that you do follow, they follow you. Because there's, the vast majority I don't follow. I only have like 300 people I follow. And most of them aren't other creatives. But the ones that I do, I see them in my stories and they never engage. And it's like, I see you seeing me. Like I see you.
All right. I take this to heart. I will engage with your stories more often from now on.
That's not the intention.
I will. It's coming. Did you post a story yet today? I'm going to check right now.
Maybe I should do one now. I'll just take a screenshot of this. I'll take a photo of this.
I'm going to check and see.
Here we go.
That,
I need Mike's validation. Here we go. All right. Maybe I should put my hands up as well.
Look,
the balloons come up.
Yeah.
There we go.
I turned that off at one point. I got to turn it off again. I think it's inside of this FaceTime. Yeah, thumbs up I can get. But every once in a while, because I talk with my hands, I'll get a thumbs down that shows up on the thing. I'm like, it wasn't me. I didn't mean for the thumbs down to show up.
Talking about like a really heavy moment, and you're just like,
yeah, and I'm like, thumbs down.
I don't really care.
Thumbs down. No. It's good, man. Well, this was super fun. When I talk to you, I'm like, I should just start a podcast with Reagan because we could talk for hours and hours. And
what value does someone get out of this kind of episode? Just two dudes chatting.
There's value in there though, because you get to understand the psyche of other people that are out there creating content and what they're facing and what they're dealing with. There's value in it. And that's that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast of What the Helvetica podcast is that I want it to just be conversational as if we're just sitting down at coffee and other people get to listen and hear what we're talking about. And this is one of the best conversations like that I could have had because it definitely did not touch on any of the topics that we might have touched on that I sent you a list of yesterday.
Are you sure you don't want to talk about AI? This? No.
Not now. We cannot switch to AI after this, and that requires another 2 hours
that's a rabbit
conversation.
Yeah. All good. Well, look, thank you for inviting me on. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend. I always say you're the loveliest man. I gave you a shout out as well in my last podcast episode, actually, with your psychology of graphic design pricing. I've still got it on my desk right here.
Thank you.
Everybody, if you are watching, this is a shameless plug for Michael Jander's The Psychology of Graphic Design Pricing. Check it out on Amazon and all your good bookstores that don't exist anymore because it's all on Amazon.
That's right. It's the only place to buy a book.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you for the plug. You've got a podcast. You've got a YouTube channel that you're starting to make efforts on. You've got your Instagram. You are going to write a book. You produce amazing content, and you're doing client work still, and you're a dad. So give Frank G'day Reagan Macreel a follow. He would appreciate that. And when you follow him, comment on his stories, because he's really jonesing for that. He's feeling bad. He's not getting the engagement that he wants. So give him a little love on his Instagram stories.
It's like, instead of Desperate Housewives, it's like Desperate Designers living down Helvetica Lane.
I'll put it's G'dayFrank.com and G'dayFrank on social platforms, and I'll put those all in the show notes for this. So check him out, give him a follow, and thank you, man. That was super fun. We'll have to do it more frequently than we're on, like a once every 3 year schedule right now that we need to improve.
Yes.
That's what we need to improve.
Well, maybe I have to get you on my podcast, because last time I was on, you were on mine, and then now I'm on yours. So I think we're going back and forth. I have to make a new show that we'll talk about. We'll talk about gender.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's great. No, not for me. Not for me. Yeah.
Lovely.
All right, man. And thank you everybody for listening to this episode of What the Helvetica. Hopefully you like this episode, and we'll be back for more with other great people coming soon. Thanks so much. We'll see you later.